What's good? It's Woog. Sufjan Stevens is releasing Javelin right now. And look, you guys tell me, is Javelin as good as the critics are saying that it is? Because I'm like reluctantly excited. I mean, he's got one of the better discographies in that whole indie folk genre. Like, I'm a huge fan of Illinois. I'm a huge fan of Carrie and Lowell, which came like 10 years later. I think Illinois was 2005. Carrie and Lowell, which I think is probably his second best album, was 2015. I mean, that's a very sad album. That one's almost tough to listen to. Certain songs like 4th of July, it's just tugging at the heartstrings. Really, really deep stuff. But Illinois, fantastic album. I mean, his entire well, I'll say this. Illinois and some of the earlier albums like Michigan and Seven Swans, very good. Like the songwriting and certain songs like Sister from Seven Swans, phenomenal. Illinois, his best album. That's a masterpiece. I didn't like Age of Odds or Age of Ads as much as some of the others. You know, when he gets into the folktronica, and it's a hit or miss. Sometimes I like it, and other songs I'm just not as big on. So Age of Odds was all right to me. Same thing with Ascension. That was his album from like 2 or 3 years ago. I didn't like that one as much for a lot of the same reasons I didn't like Age of Odds or Age of Ads as much. However, his collaboration with Angelo DeAgostine more recently, called A Beginner's Mind, that one I thought was fantastic. That kind of harkened back to some of those very tender, soft tones, very colorful melodies and so forth. So A Beginner's Mind, I like it in the same vein that I like Michigan, Seven Swans, and then some of those beautiful, dreamy moments on the otherwise emotionally crushing Carrie and Lowell. So let me know what you think about Javelin upon your first or second listen. Are they overhyping it? Because sometimes they'll do that. Sometimes it'll be one of those renowned bands like, I don't know, Arcade Fire. I'm trying to think of a band that has a good track record, and then they rate the album highly, almost so they could give that artist the consistency, like, oh yeah, this is as good as anything that they've done. Where does Javelin stack up with the rest of Sufjan Stevens' discography? By the way, did you know that he's currently battling Guillain-Barré syndrome? It's a debilitating autoimmune disease, so he's literally in rehab right now, relearning how to walk. Think about that. As his new album is dropping, he's debilitated to the point where he's in a wheelchair and relearning how to access his motor functions. I mean, he's been pretty transparent about some of it, like on Instagram and so forth. So, I wish him the absolute best in full recovery. That cannot be an easy thing to go through. But yeah, I can't wait to dive into Javelin. I get excited anytime there's a release, even his recent release of like a ballet score, a piano score that was intended for a ballet. I didn't like that as much. Or, I love ambient music. His Aporia, and what was his other ambient release? Like Convocations. I like some of his ambient music. And I mean, he's got a Christmas album out that a lot of people like. I mean, kind of a cult classic, he's got his pocket of devoted fans. And I'm here for it. Just the other day, I was re-listening to Illinois with John Wayne Gacy, and just the opener with that doom 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 doom. Just listen to those piano tones on track 1 of Illinois. And then that very long song, it's like the track 2 or 3, the one where at the midway point of a long song where there's a lot of kind of orchestral big band stuff going on. Then like it slows down tempo wise in the middle of it, where he says, I cried myself to sleep last night. I mean, come on, that stuff is rough. And then he's got Jacksonville, he's got Decatur, both very good folky songs. And then Chicago, to me, that's like the centerpiece of the album. But then he's got, Casimir Polanski Day, and then that one, Metropolis, Superman Saves that one. That's a very good song as well, where you got those like children's choruses like on Chicago, and then on that Metropolis Superman song. So look, I look at Sufjan Stevens as being like a musical mastermind. To me, his stuff is brilliant. I mean, St. Vincent got her start, playing in Sufjan's touring band. So look, I'll report back with my findings after I dive into Javelin, but I want your thoughts. Is it as good as how critically acclaimed it's being right now? Like, look, I hope that it's Grammy nominated this year. Like, I'm often it's a mixed bag with that alternative music category. Sometimes they'll go with the obvious picks like a Arcade Fire or Radiohead. It's like, come on, can we get like one of these, you know, critically acclaimed artists on there? I mean, I don't know, take your pick. But I would love to see Sufjan Stevens Grammy nominated this year if Javelin is in fact this good. But yeah, let me know where you would stack it among the rest. Is it as good as Illinois? Is it as good as, you know, if you like Age of Odds? Is it as good as that? Is it as good as his collab with Angelo DeAugustine? By the way, listen to that one if you haven't. A Beginner's Mind, like their voices together, and his voice, his Angelo DeAugustine, who is on Sufjan Stevens' label Asthmatic Kitty, and he's got his own couple very good albums. One of them's called Tomb, and then he's got one more recent one since that. Go give him a listen. But yeah, let me know where you think Javelin stacks up with the rest of Sufjan Stevens' catalog. And by the way, I had pre-ordered like a few weeks ago the Javelin vinyl, so that should be coming in the mail like sometime next week or thereabout. But yeah, please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you love music like I do. I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.